A very good afternoon to everybody. I have been training in martial arts for a long time, and there's not a bone in my body that I haven't broken in the process. But it gave me a lot of learning. And finally, martial art is at some level the pursuit of power. It's power. Okay, thank you, fellas. Oops. Have I just knocked over Christ University? So, power is something that is fundamental to our well-being, right? When we feel powerless, we want to snatch power from people in some way. Now, this has created an imbalance because hierarchy is a structure in which power is right on top and little bits of it trickle down to people downstairs who are waiting for the masters to drop it into their hands. I don't like this system. I was born in this system, brought up in this system like Bane, but I worked my way out of it. Forged my way out of it. Anyway, forget it. No one's getting the Batman reference. So, when we are all born into this hierarchy, it becomes very hard for us to know what our own power is. We start to develop a dependence on other people to make us feel powerful. We want validation from other people. Otherwise, you don't feel power, right? And then some people try to renounce power and become yogis. But yoga is not about renouncing power. Yoga is the celebration of power. There are two kinds of power, the small power and the big power. And the small power is when I go and criticize someone for no reason and they get upset. Maybe what I'm saying is accurate. But when I do that to them and they get upset, I feel, oh my God, I have this impact on them, right? And I can, through that, build the belief that I have a little bit of power, all right? So, let me give you the story of how this started very briefly. I don't like long stories. So, what happened is, I was called, I think in the year 2002. No, 2002 is when I started working in the field of gender violence. There was a lot of gender violence happening. Domestic violence was on the rise, or at least reports of it were on the rise. And there were communities rife with domestic violence. How does this happen? First of all, men have something called Alexithymia. Okay? Alexithymia is the inability to articulate your emotions. And there's an Alexithymia test online for the men here, if you want to go and try it. Women also, most welcome to go try it. Now it's spreading, this disease. And it's actually a recognized disease in the DSM. So many people, in fact, 90% of the population has some extent of this, where they cannot articulate their emotions. They have inhibitions to articulate their emotions. And if they don't know how to do it without getting censure, criticism, etc. So when the Sri Lankan refugees came on these little boats from across the Park Straits, they lost a few family members in the journey, and there was a lot of post-traumatic stress. And the men could not express their emotions, and therefore took to alcohol in order to regain a sense of, or rather to forget their powerlessness, right? Now, addiction is because of a lack of connection. When you cannot connect with any other human being on a meaningful level, then you start to connect with a substance in order to take your mind off thinking about your own powerlessness. In fact, the biggest powerlessness is if you can't connect with somebody. If you can't communicate your feelings with somebody, then you start to feel extremely powerless. Okay, so then these guys started beating up their wives and children very badly. Many of the children left school. It was at this point that I was called in as a self-defense and martial art expert to teach self-defense to the women. It's ridiculous. Because these people were living happily in Sri Lanka before they got dislodged. They were leading middle-class lives, but now they had to come and live in huts in India, and they just couldn't deal with that much of change so fast. And what is self-defense going to do over there? I had no idea. So I went there hoping to let my audience teach me what to teach them. And that's exactly what happened. When I went there, there was a group of 100 ladies, and they said, we're not going to beat up our husbands. This is what they told me first. We know you're a martial artist. We're not going to beat up our husband. I said, I don't expect you to. I really don't even know what to do. Just tell me what happens, right? So they kept explaining that the husband comes in and then it gets annoyed with something small, and then it turns into a verbal argument, which turns into slaps or kicks and things like that. And then he feels a sense of power and he goes back to sleep. This is how his mechanism of dealing with it. So I said, okay, here's what you can do. Take your hands and smash them together like this. Okay? For a minute. Make sure that you get every bit of the bone to smash every bit of this bone on top. You have two bones, the radius and the ulna. You make sure you smash both of them. So this causes very small micro fractures in your hand in a minute. It's not a bad thing. And they kind of rebuild really strong. Okay? So Gotham has been practicing it for 1 year now. And I have been practicing it for 20 years now. So when Gotham gives me a slap, I just have to block it, and he doesn't want to slap me again. Right? Yeah? Gotham gives me a kick, and I block it with my shin. Why? Because I'm chopping my shin like this. Also for a minute, and also here for a minute. This simple technique, thank you, Gotham. This simple technique changed the fortunes of a community of 2 lakh people. Just this one technique. Why? Because the woman would be cooking or doing work around the house, and in addition earning money and taking care of the children. While all these guys do is sit and feel sorry for themselves and do a little bit of work, enough to get alcohol, get drunk, and come back, right? So when they come back, she's already tired. And then she began to take this less seriously. Earlier, his criticism, she thought she had to react to it, and she would react, and there would be a conflict, and there would be a fight. And now she's like, I am powerful. She started to feel powerful, because when this gets strong, you feel like you have an armor. If something attacks you, you can do this, right? And you can take blows, right? Arjun and Gautam, can we just show them? So even if you get thrown on the ground and you get rolled around and kicked around, yeah? I'm falling down on this place and he's hitting me. All I have to do is just hit, and kick also. Go for it. Kick. Right? I don't get damaged on my head. I don't get damaged on my spine. And there's a lot of pain, right? Yeah. When in your hands. Okay. So it never got to this extreme stuff. It came up to stuff like slapping, and then she'd block it, and then they'd kick him, and then he'd block it. And just like my lungi fell off, one husband's lungi fell off, and the wife got so disgusted, she took the lungi, put it on his head, and started hammering him with one of those, rolling pins. And then the guy started crying, and then he said, I'm sorry. And then he said, all the alcohol comes down when you get a few slaps. Then he said, I'm sorry. And then he didn't do it again. He actually found a job, a better job that he can keep. And like this, the whole community, when news of this spread, because they're living in small huts, the news spreads, Everyone can hear what's going on in your house. So, as a culture, the women will get up even now and practice these things. And it's not just this. There are a few more exercises which I teach them. One of the exercises is to keep blowing out a candle. Right? Keep blowing out a candle. You keep it here, and then you go back, and you blow it out. Until you get aim with your mouth, right? Ashwini, I need your help for this. Gotham and Arjun, come here. So, Gotham and Arjun might try a few typical things on her, like pulling her hair. Look at her in her sari. Does she look like a martial artist? Right? She's not, actually. She's adopted her. And she's a dancer, of course, so she has some awareness of her body. So I had to teach her this like 5 minutes in the morning. Have you learned this before? Never. Okay. So try. Let's see what happens. He starts. All right? She isn't hitting him in places where she can hurt him because he's a friend. If she had done the same thing here, that would be really bad. Or if she had gone into the cardiac plexus here, it would directly affect his heart. Or if you go to the abdominal plexus here, it's even more painful, right? So I've asked her not to break her training partners. Okay, what else do you want to try? Try grabbing her from behind and see what happens. Now she can't spit at him. Oh, once again saved. Let us protect education. Come this side. Okay. So thank you guys. So here is the sneezing thing really works, okay? So I'm a girl and I'm traveling in a bus and here's this guy falling on me. No, that's not what they do in a bus. What kind of you're a useless creep. Let me show you. Okay, here's what the creeps do, yeah? First they come and stand next to you. And then slowly like this. Every time the bus applies a brake, it'll be like that. Right? Things like that. That's what happens. Right, girls? Yeah. Okay, so let's say something like this is happening. If I say, "Hey, tere maa ben nahi hai kya?" He's gonna deny that he did anything. He's gonna say, "I didn't do anything," right? So he did it. He knows he did it. Why should the world know that he did it? Right? He should get punished for it. So you sneeze. Yeah, be a creep. And you say, "Oh, sorry, bhai sahab, aapko lagi kya?" Thoda dur khadi hai na. And then you can do this even on a bus. And someone creep comes, sits next to you, and does all these things in the night. He's fallen asleep and he's trying, right? So you can also 3-4 times you can sneeze, because the thing with the sneeze is you don't know how many times it comes, right? And you're like, whoa, are you okay? What are you doing so close to me? It's a little far, I sneeze very violently. I think your perfume is something, your smell is making me sneeze. Can you change your seat, Yeah. And like that, you can use your brains and get out of many situations. Now, a friend of mine was picked up, she's been raped many times. And then she came to me and saying, I don't want this to happen anymore. So, because she works in social work and everyone attacks her for so many things. Sometimes she's been raped to scare her. But this never scared her. She just kept going. Now she's in the US. So this student of mine, she was coming home near, what is that place? Koramangala. And that Koramangala first block where it gets all dark and dingy and rooms are cheap. So she could only afford a room there. So she was going back to her room after the office buses dropped her somewhere. And a guy has been watching this, and he's a laborer. He's been watching this for 4 or 5 days, and he decides he's going to rape her. Like, how on earth do you decide this? Then I realized our culture is giving this thing to them. License to police women. What are you doing alone? Okay, thanks, Gotham. What are you doing alone in the middle of the night, and who is your keeper, and where is your keeper? Because women are property, right? According to the social narrative, right? Right from, the religious texts all the way down to our current social structure and marriage rituals. Have you seen them? How much you get objectified in that? So anyway, so as she was walking down, this guy comes and picks her up, closes her mouth, and she's like, oh no, not another rape. And she kind of twists his little finger and says, are you trying to rape me? Yeah, and then he says, you can't say, yes, I'm trying to rape you. Like, he's a little bit shocked that he's not getting the reaction that he usually gets, which is what? Panic, freeze, something like that. Or maybe some hitting. But I don't know, we carefully keep our women away from martial arts. And nowadays, my students' classes, I don't teach martial arts anymore, but I have some students who do. They're getting more and more women in their classes. But when I used to teach, it was, okay, I don't want to say the word, but it was full of men. So then as she did this, then she said, I've been raped many times before and I've got AIDS. Like, you want AIDS? He knows what AIDS is. And he's like, he didn't say a word, he just pushed off. He ran away. Right? And her legs are shaking. And then she somehow found her cell phone and she called me and said, this happened. I said, don't stand in the street, go home and call me. And then, yeah. So I think at some point, when do we make a change? When we've had enough. That's when we make a change. Right? Don't bother trying to change people who have not had enough. If they've not had enough, just protect yourself and stay away from them. And then when they had enough, they'll come and then all your milk of human compassion can come out and you can help them. Right? 30% of people are saying, I've had enough. 50% of people are saying, who, me, change? 30% are saying, yeah, I've had enough. I mean, I'm not a statistician, but I think all statistics is just made up. Right? And I'm just saying this from my own experience. Maybe 10% of, how many percent is left now? There's 30, 50, there's 20 left, right? 15% of people are saying, somebody teach me. I want to learn. How can I have my power back? How can I not be needy in every relationship, needy with my parents, needy with my spouse, needy with my mentors, needy, emotionally needy. They said, we have had enough of that. And I really want some real power. I want to give instead of take. A really powerful person gives, right? Go first. You want to be powerful? Give first. Give whatever it is. Give that first word of kindness. Give that first smile. Give that first act of generosity. You do that first and see, 50% of people may not respond as you expected, but 50% of people would appreciate it. And so that's a good figure. Just be kind to everybody. It's that simple. But yeah. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you are inspired to practice this. Thank you.